Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. One luminous dawn in October 2023, I stepped onto Havana's mail con, where pastel facades blush at the first kiss of sunrise, and the Gulf Stream whispers through salt-kissed air. I wandered cobblestone, alleys embroidered with bougainvillea, tasted coffee amid the chatter of Aguilera storytellers, and felt the resilience of people who dance sorrow into song, as a living canvas of warmth, color, and unbroken spirit. Today we bring that magic into our conversation. I'm Jjuliaa Gangwani, and this is Rare Talks presented by the Blue Moon, a podcast where diplomacy meets memory and strategy finds its voice. In this episode, we sit down with His Excellency Juan Marsán, Ambassador of Cuba to India, to explore evolving arc of bilateral relations from trade and technology to cultural resonance and global cooperation. Ambassador, it's an honor to have you with us at the Rare Talks presented by the Blue Moons. Pleasure to have you with us.
It's my pleasure, and I've been very grateful for this opportunity for your interview, and also it's an opportunity for the audience to know more about Cuba.
I have long admired of Cuba poetic diplomacy and strategic resilience, and today we explore the evolving arc of India-Cuba relations from trade and technology to trilateral trust and cultural exchange. Once again, thank you for joining us. Ambassador, let's begin with the big picture. Cuba and India share a legacy of non-alignment and mutual respect. How do you define the core strategic objectives of India-Cuba relations for this decade? And which level performance indicator will you use to gauge progress?
Well, have you said Cuba and India has a long-standing relationship. We are celebrating this year 65 years of bilateral diplomatic relations. And well, it starts from the few months after the Cuban Revolution, January 1st, 1959, the visit of Che Guevara to India and the meeting he had with, at that time, Prime Minister Nehru and other Indian leaders. But also in the following days or years, the visit of Fidel Castro to India in 1973, also in 1983. But to emphasize what is a priority in our bilateral relations, I would like to mention in the most recent meeting between the Prime Minister Sri Narendra Modi and the Cuban President Miguel Díaz-Canel, which took place at the beginning of July at the sidelines of the BRICS Summit in Rio de Janeiro, in Brazil. They had a very good meeting. They were for more than 30 minutes talking about how to enhance the economic, commercial, and cooperation relations between the two countries. I see that this meeting is a reference where we are going to, and in which priority we are going to concentrate our common efforts. This year as well, we had the visit to India of the Deputy Prime Minister of Cuba, Dr. Eduardo Martínez Díaz. It was also an important reference because during this visit, the Deputy Prime Minister of Cuba had the opportunity to meet more than 5 different Indian ministers, and they were consensus that we should be innovative in the way to continue developing our mutual cooperation. And in the rest of the year, other delegations, high delegations, are coming to Cuba as well. So I see that this year has been a very important one in order to continue reinforcing our bilateral cooperation between the two countries.
This sets the tone for how New Delhi and Havana measures the success, not only in sentiment, it's in substance.
That's right.
So, as you are talking about, the bilateral has grown, yet non-tariff barriers still persist. Which 3 regulatory or logistical hurdles have you prioritized removing, and what timelines have you set for each?
Well, some steps has been done in the last month. On June, a delegation from the Cuban regulatory body in drugs visited India And during that visit, we signed a memorandum of understanding recognizing the Indian pharmacology. It is a very important step because it allows us to buy in more free, I can say, Indian medication to Cuba. In the forthcoming months or years, India could be the first supplier to raw materials, but also medicines to Cuba, and it will have an important impact in the health system in Cuba, because we can provide to our population a specific medicine that we are not producing in our country. So it is an important step. Also, Cuba could be applied to be part of this important program that was launched by the Prime Minister Modi ji. It was almost 8 years ago, called PMBGP. This is a program to provide medication of high quality at better prices, for affordable prices. So Cuba is also participating in this program in the forthcoming month. Also, we should strengthen the legal framework in order to continue, reinforcing the bilateral trade, commerce between the two countries. We are looking forward to sign a joint economic and trade commission between the two countries. We are negotiating the text, but I am pretty sure that we are going to sign it in the future, and it will establish a mechanism in order to follow up all this process and to take the appropriate decision in order to facilitate the trade between the two countries. Cuba is also moving in the direction to flexibilize the possibility for Indian companies to participate in the Cuban economy. For example, in the most recent update of the law that we applied in Cuba for foreign investors, we give new facilities for Indian companies to participate not only in the exclusive economic zone in Mariel, 50 kilometers from Havana, but also in the rest of the Cuban economic sectors. So I think that Indian company entrepreneurs could participate in mining, in agriculture, in many other important tourism, of course, and in many other sectors of the Cuban economy.
President, you have answered my couple of questions where I was going to ask on pharmaceuticals and sugar and what Cuba services export to India. So I think so it's about Cuba's capacities, we are co-creating it. So where you talk about the further investment from India, you have already answered one, but partly would like to know what is the single most surprising tip you would like to give to our Indian businessmen who are keeping an eye on Havanas or other part of Cuba for investment?
You know, we have, as we mentioned, a very close political relations between the two countries, because its historical relations has been based in mutual respect, cooperation, and solidarity. But India, in my opinion, Indian companies should know more about Cuba. We are celebrating every year in our country an international trade fair in Havana. Next one are going to take place in November from 24th to 29th, and the people could attend this international trade fair. Usually, the Cuban Minister of Trade Fair and Foreign Investments, they used to give new informations. They are going to present the update portfolio for foreign investments in our country. They are going also to inform about the legal framework that we are launching in order to provide the foreign companies to participate in the Cuban economy. But also, I can say that we cannot see Cuba as a market to export only. You know, Cuba is offering many possibilities to create joint ventures, even companies with 10%, 100% foreign companies in our country with new facilities. So I convey the Indian companies to go to Cuba, to visit Cuba, to attend this important international trade fair in Havana, and to know more about all the opportunities that we are offering. I am convinced that India could play a key role in the Cuban economy strategy. for the future.
Yeah, sometimes one sector unlock the other sector. So this is how it is. So from tropical medicine to digital health, Cuba and India have much to share with each other. So let's explore this frontier that India and Cuba share expertise in tropical medicine. Can you detail a recent collaborative R&D initiative in funding structure, key deliverables to date, and plans for scaling outcomes?
Yes, well, as you mentioned, Cuba has a long experience working and researching in tropical diseases in general, and many Cuban international medical brigades has been participating in Africa, for example, combating Ebola, or for example in COVID-19, we sent more than 50 medical brigades to more than 45 countries to face the COVID-19, to work with the people with the health system in those countries, trying to defeat the COVID-19, and we did it. We did it together. Also, Cuba was able to create 5 vaccines against COVID, and we used to vaccinate the Cuban population, to immunize with the Cuban population, but also we offered this in gesture of solidarity with many other countries in the Caribbean region, in the Latin American region, even in Africa. So I think that we can cooperate in this area. Now, for example, dengue is an important challenge to all of us. In Cuba, because we are living in the Caribbean region, we are suffering of this high temperature, of this rain season as well in our country. India also, mainly in the south, but I can say in general, you have this monsoon season as well. So in this area, we have identified some Indian companies that are interested to collaborate with Cuba. We have also some advantage in the research combating dengue. We are working in the vaccine against dengue. I know that also India is working on that. So let's cooperate. I see we are going to to reach our goals faster if we work together in this specific disease, but in others. For example, if we are talking about diabetics, we in Cuba also have a unique treatment based on one innovative products of the biotechnology sector in our country. Is a EverProd-P. This avoid that the people that suffer diabetics and goes for these diabetic food ulcers, and sometimes they, unfortunately, they must to go for amputation. It avoids these problems because this medication that has been tested in more than 20 countries has an excellent results. So we are also offering to Indian companies the possibility even to transfer technology to India. So you can produce your own this medicine or these vaccines here in India to provide to the Indian population. And we can also be agreed to expand to other markets, to Asian market, international market as well. This is a single example. How can we, facing the same challenge and the same problems, we can achieve good results in benefit of India and the Cuba as well.
Science diplomacy is a quiet engine of global health nowadays. So when we are talking about the digital health emerging as a priority, so would like to know, have you aligned Cuban telemedicine pilots with Indian e-health standards?
Yes.
And what challenges still remain there?
Well, the technology is always a challenge because telemedicine, we have also in Cuba some experiences in this sector, but we should enhance our capabilities in our country. The technology is also an important question that we must invest more, and we have a lack of financial resources because of this policy of the blockade and the problem that we are facing after the COVID-19 and so on. But also we should create our own digital platforms in order to provide to the medical sector the possibility for this video conference and other operation in distance and many other possibilities. But we are working, including with Indian companies, There is a delegation now from Cuba, an important delegation that is working in informatics and technology, and we are discussing with Indian counterpart how to cooperate also, including in telemedicine as well.
So as you said, technology is challenging, but without trust is a code. Is the new diplomacy nowadays. Ambassador, Cuba's green ambitions align with India's solar leadership. So under the International Solar Alliance, where has project implementation under-delivered in Cuba? Is there any project? And how will you recalibrate financing or capacity building to hit agreed targets?
Well, the energy supply is always a challenge today, mainly when you depend on import of fuel oil. Or, in the case of Cuba, more than 80% of the total energy that we are producing today is by fuel. And it's a very, the prices in the international market are growing. It's unstable, the supply to Cuba. And also we are suffering the consequence of this policy of the blockade that is persecuting all the vessels that send the oil to Cuba and so on. So we are quite determined to go for an energy transition in our country. And this year we are introducing more than 1,000 megawatts by solar panels in our country. The next year will be 1,000 more, and we are going to reach by 2030 around 30% of the total demand in the energy demand in Cuba through renewable energies. But I would like to express my gratitude for this initiative of the Indian government, especially from the Prime Minister Modi ji, to launch the International Solar Alliance. We are founding members of this organization, and we have been working very close because we consider that ISA is a strategic partner for Cuba in this energy transition process. Last month, August, a delegation led by the Director General of ISA, Mr. Kana, he visited Cuba, and they were working in the solar map of Cuba to see all the conditions and the possibilities for Cuba for use of the solar energy in general. We are not talking only about solar panels, also different applications of the solar energy equipments, also for the housing and for cooking and different electricity for houses as well. So, and during this visit, we identified 3 specific projects in which we are going to cooperate together. The first one is to supply more than 10,000 water solar pump for the agricultural sector. We are going to start
from India to Cuba?
From India to Cuba.
Okay.
We have an Indian company that was participating in this visit. They will provide different kind of solar pump to our country. We are going to start with tobacco plantations, where we're moving to the rest of the agriculture, and will be an advantage for farmers, for example, for irrigation, because we are suffering some lack of electricity now during some period during the day. But once they have this solar power pump, will be more independent for them to plan for the planning of the irrigation and all this. Also, we were looking to make some energy independence of the pharmaceutical industry in our country, because they are also affecting because of this blackout that we are suffering today. So there is a plan to install almost 250 megawatts to cover all the pharmaceutical plants in our country, and will be an important contribution in this important social sector to our population. And the third one, we are working also we have around 20,000 houses in Cuba that are located in the countryside, very, I can say, long distance from the grid, and it's difficult to provide electricity and they are working in a plan how to provide for all these houses of the home electrical system using the solar panels as well. So we are working on this, and also we have the first country in Latin America that opened an START-C. It's a center for research and also for the implementation of the solar map in Cuba. And we are going to work very close to ISA in capacity building, not only in benefit of Cuba, but also for the Caribbean region and the Latin American region as a whole. So as you see, there is a clear roadmap to work with this organization. We are in 2 weeks, or during this month, will be the 8th assembly of the International Solar Alliance. The Cuban delegation is going to participate, and we would like also to contribute with the discussion how to make affordable the energy, the solar energy, to all of us, and how to also to introduce in Cuba new technology that could save resources. You said, well, the financial strategy. Yeah. At the time you save to buy oil in the international market, you can invest these financial resources in the renewable energy. It is a strategy you are following up in this sector. Yeah, that was my main. And what you mentioned, the 3 projects which you discussed recently. One is on pharma sectors, one is agriculture solar pumps, and third is those people who are sitting at countryside, the distance. And Cuba, and you mentioned that you are removing tobacco, focusing more on agriculture. But if you remove tobacco, Cuba is renowned for Havana cigars. Yes. So how it is going to be? That plantation is totally different. What I'm mentioning is that we are going to start implementing the installation of the solar power plant in the tobacco fields, so in the production of tobacco, because it's a contrary. We are not covering the demands of the Cuban cigar. Exactly, it's a huge. Today, it's a huge demand. It is. We are only supplying less than 50%. Right. Cuba now is producing around 300 million units per year, but the demand is more than 600 million units. That's true. So we are going to expand the tobacco plantations to other regions in Cuba. And to be sustainable, the production, we are going to have renewable energies in order to provide the water for irrigation in all these new areas. Is what I'm mentioning. Right. Okay, so Ambassador, here you talk about International Solar Alliance, but Cuba they are exploring ways to energy solutions. Have you discussed this proposition with the Indian government or working closely with to Clean Ganga program? Is there any pilot project you are planning, Cuba and India, to ways to energy solution, because Cuba is exporting this? Yes. From the very beginning, we are investing a lot in order to green our country, because we were depending a lot from the sugarcane plantation. Yes. And during the Spaniard time in Cuba, I am talking about the 18th, 19th, and the beginning of the 20th century, we were a small country. We were leader of the sugarcane production until the 70th, more or less. But what is the problem? That they took a lot of forest, were cutting down in order to produce the sugarcane. And it was an heritage that the Cuban Revolution received from the previous period. So I can say that in 1959, only 25% of the Cuban territory was covered by forest, and today is more than 60. So we have done a lot. Also, for example, in the marine areas, in the mangrove, to preserve the mangroves, because it's also for the preservation, is useful for the preservation of the coastline, but also to avoid the salinization of the lands that are close to the coast, and also for avoid carbon emission as well. So we are working very hard in all these experiences, and Cuba is a reference when we're talking about the preservation of the environment, Cuba is a reference in the Caribbean region in Latin America. And we are working also with the CDRI, which is a coalition for resilient disaster infrastructure. Also, how to promote these Cuban experiences to other, especially to islands, because we are suffering this challenge that we are losing every day because of the climate change and the increase of the sea level. We are losing territories in our country. In Cuba, this situation continues, and we are not together. We are not able to, not only the adaptation, but also the mitigation of the climate change. We can lose more than 78% of the total land of Cuba in the forthcoming years. I am talking by 2080 or more or less. So how we can continue cooperating with India is one point that we are also focused. How can we increase our cooperation? We have an experience, for example, with Kerala. In Kerala government, we also signed a memorandum of understanding to cooperate in preservation of the coastline in this area, because they are suffering also the degradation of the coast. So we are working in this small experience, but once we can show what we can present results, I am sure that we could expand this collaboration with other states here in India as well.
Interesting to know. From river to renewable energy is a really great story of shared sustainability. So let's move on the global and trilateral engagement at the UN and with the NAM. Within NAM, which recent resolution have India and Cuba co-sponsored or aligned on, and how do you coordinate negotiating tactics between New Delhi, Havana, and New York?
Well, Julia, we have more than 60 years collaborating in the United Nations in India and Cuba. Remember that we both were founding members of Non-Alignment Movement from the time Fidel in United Nations met Nehru at the time Prime Minister of India, but this has been a continuous way of working together, both countries, and in the international organization, G77 as well, for example, in UNESCO, in the Commission of Human Rights as well. So we have a long-standing tradition cooperating in the international and multilateral organizations. And let me tell you something, Cuba and India always has the same position, because we are both two countries that are defending very strong the principles contained in the United Nations chapter and the international law. Always we have been working together to promote the rights of the Global South countries. So it is something that there is an experience. We are continuous working together. We have very effective teams in the United Nations, also in all the multilateral capitals as well. And anytime I met someone in the Ministry of External Affairs related to multilateral issues, he always mentioned their Cuban friends in the international organization, because anytime they are changing position, opinions, cooperating, and we are very glad also, because for 33 years, Cuba has presented a resolution condemning the U.S. blockade towards Cuba, and always India has been voting in favor of the Cuban resolution. We are very glad for this position, and it's an expression of this common solidarity between the two governments and people.
So I would say that on a little lighter note, that diplomacy is a dance. Who leads, who follows, and later how they move together.
That's right.
Okay, so in what ways has India's strategic dialogue with CELAC and CARICOM impacted its bilateral ties with Cuba? And how can these regional blocs be leveraged for deeper trade and disaster response cooperation?
Well, India, I can say always, but mainly in the last 20 years, has become a most important country in the global economy. You are already the fourth economy in the world, and you are becoming the third in the forthcoming years. I am totally sure. And in my opinion, India could play a more important role in Latin America. There are many steps for this to reach this goal, because India is opening new embassies in Latin America.
Yeah.
If you see the economic exchange between India and Latin America has been growth in the last year as well. But I think there are more opportunities and possibilities to reach more, to increase this cooperation to the highest level between India and Latin America and the Caribbean region as a whole. Cuba always has supported to have a formal dialogue between CELAC and India. And I think it has been some meetings, for example, during the United Nations General Assembly. The Minister of External Affairs, Jaishankar, he has met many Latin American countries and gathered all the different Ministers of Foreign Affairs for discussions how to increase this cooperation between our two countries. Also, the State Minister, Mr. Pavrita Margarita, he has paid many visits to different countries of Latin America. So it is an expression that India is looking to Latin America with a new perspective according to this tremendous opportunity that we are also offering, because Latin America could be, for example, in terms of rare earths, and also in mining in general, or for example could be an important market for pharmaceutical sector of India. In all this we can cooperate. And Cuba also has a main island in the Caribbean Sea, and for his geographical position in the entrance of also of Mexico, we can also could be a hub for India in different sectors, to provide this, for example, medications and other to the rest of the Latin American, the Caribbean region. So we are going to play this role in order to support that India could have a more closer relations with Latin America and the Caribbean region, for sure.
Ambassador, beyond policy, it's people-to-people ties that shape perception. Let's talk cigar, coffee, and cinema. So I start with, we already spoken on the Cuban cigar, how's the demand and the supply from Cuba. So to elevate people-to-people tie, how might tour operator package curated Cuba meets India, whether it's coffee and cigar tasting itineraries you can make, because this is what Indian people would love to go and explore. Blending plantation visit, which I experienced myself there in India, with Havana's legendary tobacco lounges. We have some tobacco lounges here in India. Can you shed some light on this?
Well, I am pretty sure when Indians visited Cuba, they will discover a marvelous country.
Yes.
You know, very open-minded people, very proud of the history, but also a wonderful nature in our country. The people could arrive to Havana. They could visit the tobacco plantation in Pinar del Rio. It's a western province in Cuba, but only 150 kilometers from Havana. You can go and take back in the same day, it's not a problem. You can visit the tobacco plantation to see the farmers, how they are living, how they are working, how they preserve the quality of the leaf of the Cuban cigars in order to ensure that will be the best in the world. They can have lunch, Cuban lunch, with them in the farmer, and they also can rolling a cigar for you, a personal cigar for you. So these are all the experience that they can discover in our country. They visit Cuba too. Also to have a Cuban coffee, which is delicious, 100% Arabic. We are producing in our country. We are drinking coffee different, like in India. You know, when you say black coffee, usually it's a big cup of coffee. In the case of Cuba, very strong, a little bit, sometimes sweet or not.
Kind of a shot.
Yes, short. but very nice. You know, you get the essence of the coffee when you drink the Cuban coffee in Cuba, of course, with the humidity and all the people sharing as a social gator. Is the way you used to drink coffee every morning with the neighbors in our community. So also to visit old Havana is a patrimonial heritage of the humanity. It's a beautiful place, and well, the people are living in the old Havana, and you can also see the people walking and sharing to talk to the people as well. That will, the people are very high educational level in Cuba. You can discuss with Cuban anything about the international situation, the climate change, about the new research that is in different specialties.
Cubans are 99% literate in the world. 99%, number one country in the world. 99%.
In the beginning of the 90s, the historical leader of the Cuban Revolution, Fidel Castro, he realized that Cuba doesn't have strategic mineral or resources, but the main resources in Cuba is the human capital. Why? From the very beginning, we invest a lot in education. The first decision of the Cuban government at that time was to develop a very mass campaign to defeat the illiteracy. And thousands of young people went to the school, to the pre-university, to the countryside, to learn how to write, how to read, to the peasant and to the people living in the isolated village, and we reached this 99% of literacy in our country. But also you can find in Cuba a very social security in our country, safety as well. Also a health system is very strong, covers 100% of the Cuban territory or the Cuban population, and of course the tourists as well are covered by this system. So I think they will discover a nice country, and with this sympathy towards India as well, and the bilateral ties between our two countries. So I think, of course, we should work, for example, in order to provide some Indian customs, for example, in food, because usually we don't have spicy food in general in Cuba, but we have some Indian group participating in the tourist sector in our country. It's a Mutu group. They are managing in Cuba more than 12 hotels nowadays, more than 8,000 rooms, and in all these hotels they are opening Indian restaurants.
Ambassador, here I would like to cut and would like you to add here, because here in India, when I talk to an Indian businessman or Indian travel agent to go and do, Cuba has potential. But they have one question always, they have embargo from US. If we go to Cuba, we will cut our business associates from USA. Are you working on this? Because you said Muthu group is there. How they are working there? This is a perfect example. If you can shed light some on this as well.
Well, in my opinion, Indians are not submitted to this policy of embargo. In the case of travel to Cuba.
Oh, really?
In the case of travel to Cuba. We provide e-visa, for example. If you want to travel to Cuba, you can go to the website of the embassy. You go to the consulate. You can enter to the e-visa system, and in 2-3 days you will have your visa assured and you can travel. The second is that we are opening new routes to connect Cuba and India. For example, you can travel nowadays through Istanbul. You have direct flights.
I've done like this,
from Istanbul to Havana. Also, you can go through Madrid, Paris, Amsterdam, Rome,
these are the routes,
and many others. But once you have in Cuba, if you decide to travel to US, you are not submitted to these limitations. You know. So, in my opinion, you should go to Cuba, and then you should travel to US, to Canada, to any other destination. Even Cuba is a meeting point of the Indian families. Why? Because you have many Indians living in Canada.
Yes.
And we are receiving every year more than 1 million Canadians, including Indians, of course, that are living there. They used to go to Cuba. They spend the winter season in Cuba, because you go for minus 30 degrees to plus 30 degrees in 3 hours. You get a flight.
Yeah.
There are 5 direct flights from Canada to Cuba.
Right.
And you can enjoy this permanent summer in our country. Also, we should work in wedding,
Yes.
because Cuba is an exotic destination.
Perfect destination for Indian weddings. Yes.
Very diverse as well. You can find also Cuba is a capital of culture in the Caribbean Central American region, and you can enjoy the Cuban music, the song Cuban salsa, but also an excellent ballet company in Cuba, or a classic concert orchestra in our country. Every expression of the culture you can find in Cuba, and you can enjoy it. Also to discover new flavors in our country, fruits, vegetables in Cuba. It's also amazing,
Yes.
I think it's something that India could explore in our country. By the way, we are celebrating the Cuban National Day, October 20th.
That we have a Diwali celebration.
Well, it's a universe united Cuba.
Absolutely.
And India as well.
Yes.
And next October 14th is the next week.
Yeah.
We are going to make a film exhibition in the Cervantes Institute. Will be at 6:30 p.m.
Okay.
And we are going to show a film about the life of one excellent Cuban dancer, classic dancer. So I invite the people to go, because they will also know more about the cultural life in Cuba and how this small country, 10 million inhabitants, but could reach this amazing dancer, classic dancer, as was Alicia Alonso and this Carlos Acosta.
So, listeners, viewers, do not miss 14th October at Cervantes to celebrate Cuban culture with the upcoming Diwali celebration. That's wonderful. So, Ambassador, when we are talking about culture, Bollywood plays an important role to bridge the gap. This is how I can give example of myself. I got attracted towards Cuba when I watched one Indian Bollywood movie shot in Cuba of a famous Bollywood Salman Khan casted this Ekta Tiger. The old Havana you talk about, it was shot there. And when I was in Cuba in 2023, after finishing my entire Baradero, this and that, I looked for those streets in old Havana where it must have been shot. And why not we have another movie shot in Bollywood? Since then we have not seen another Bollywood.
Before coming here, I had a meeting with the institute in Cuba in charge of movies in general. ICAI is the name, and they conveyed me trying to close some Indian companies or Bollywood in order to invite them to go to Cuba and to performance some of this film in Cuba. I think we are open, and I would like to meet those companies here in India in order to to encourage them to go to Cuba and also to enjoy this the possibility to to perform on the films Cuba, and Indians to know more about my country through these beautiful films.
Absolutely, because Cuba has everything, which I have experienced myself also. They have pristine beaches. Definitely, they have an Indian restaurant run by the Indian hospitality. So, perfect destination for wedding, for relaxation, meditation, and they have a spa center overseeing the sea. So, Cuba has everything. So, definitely, Ambassador, we have to work hard to get more Bollywood movie shots there.
For sure.
So, I think so, because taste and cinema is a soft power which blends and brings people together. And in the beginning, I mentioned one sector opens the other sector. When people are coming for tourism, the business opens automatically.
Yes.
So you mentioned, ambassadors, just now, in the travel, that embargo doesn't apply. But what about the business?
Well, in general, it depends on the cases,
Yeah.
you know. But in general, we are offering many opportunities in Cuba for foreign investors. For example, Cuba also, apart from this geographical position that I was talking to, we also have a political stability and social stability in Cuba. You know, it's also an advantage when some foreign people come to my country in order to invest. We also have this portfolio for foreign investors, more than 600 different projects you can find.
From India?
No, in general.
In general.
We are offering also for Indians.
Right.
In the sugarcane plantation that we were talking to before, we are offering the possibility for Indian companies to produce in Cuba, you know, because we have the land, we have the human capital as well.
Yes.
Also, we have the water resources in our country. What we need, well, in order to recapitalize the industry, because it's very old. It's from the time of, well, of the 50s or even before. But we can do together, because even in a business that could be in favor of both sides, because some of the production could remain in Cuba to supply the internal market, but the rest could be from 30 to 70% could be export for those companies to other foreign markets. So, and they will assure the profit and the repayment of the investment as well. So I think we can explore this new possibility that we are offering to the foreign investors in our country.
So for Indian investors, they have to open their will, and the path, of course, Cuban embassy is going to make for them, and of course then it will be a win-win situation for Cuba and India. Yes,
we're going, if someone interested to explore the Cuban market in the embassy, we can provide all the information. Also, we can prepare a business visit to Cuba to meet the Cuban Chamber of Commerce, the different ministries involved in the sector. They would like to explore in Cuba. They would have that discussion with the Cuban counterpart.
Makes sense. So our listeners, for Indian businessmen, have a right information, complete information, and systematic information. If you want to do business in Cuba, get the complete information, right information from Cuban embassy, rather than going by the news here and there. I think so is a right way to start.
And we have also the experience of the unique window in our country. So you go to one place and they will give you all the information that you need for the legal framework in our country, the different opportunities. They can answer you any question that you have, and then you can go directly to meet the companies or the enterprises in Cuba you would like to discuss a common business.
We have to break this myth now. That's fine. So, Ambassador, let's close now this with reflection and resolve. Which recurring challenge in our bilateral partnership, bureaucratic, cultural, or logistical, have you worked hardest to dismantle, and what institutional change did you propose to prevent its recurrence?
Well, we started in a similar question that the political, to keep the very high political
that was on strategic and vision
between the two countries is essential, because in order to have a growing economic relations, you need the political will from both sides to encourage our businessmen, our companies to go to one country and another one. And for example, all time I am requesting the Cuban companies and the different institutions in Cuba to come to India, to visit India. You are organizing every day, I can say, different events in India. The people could come and could contact directly with the Indian companies of different sectors. So I encourage them to come and to be closer to India on this regard, because India today is offering many opportunities and possibilities for foreign business.
Yes.
Also, I would like the same to convey the people to go to Cuba, to visit Cuba, and to participate in this international trade fair. We are organizing for this next year some other important events, because we are not talking only of the economic relations, also cooperation is very important. We were talking about culture. For example, higher education. I have contact in these 6-7 months, I have contacted some universities. I convey them to participate in the Congress University 2026 that is going to take place on February in Cuba.
Okay.
Will be the possibility to sign some MOU between the different Cuban and Indian universities, also to exchange in student programs or for PhD or master degree programs as well. Also, they can meet in Cuba not only Cuban universities, because used to attend this Congress more than 60 countries from Latin America, Caribbean, from European countries. So they could go and also to meet, a university from different countries in our country. We are also trying to closer our relations in sport. India is recently organized this World Championship of Parathleticism here in Delhi.
Yes, yes.
The Cuban delegation came, and we were agreed to sign a memorandum of understanding in order to exchange in coach, to organize some bilateral championships between the two countries. Also, we signed a memorandum of understanding as well with different states here in India. There are some Cuban coaches working here in volleyball, in boxing. Cuba has very well recognized because we have many gold medal championships in Olympic champions in these sports, in Western as well. So I think in all these areas, apart from the economic sectors, we can also continue working together, India and Cuba, in the forthcoming years.
Because every diplomat has a quite battle, and this is yours, of course, and I'm sure you're coming out with the flying colors in this, and wish you all the best. Ambassador, now you have served more than 7 months in New Delhi. And which milestone in India-Cuba cooperation have given you the greatest satisfaction, and what are your top 3 priorities for the next 6 months to deepen our diplomatic, economic and cultural bond?
Well, this year in biotechnology, we have been working together in order to achieve better results in our mutual cooperation. We have in Cuba a holding group, BioCuba Pharma, that more than 48 companies belongs to this group, and they are in the biotechnology sector. They are working in specific treatments and vaccines and innovative products that we are negotiating now with Indian companies. It is something that I am pretty sure that we are going to reach excellent results in the forthcoming future, and it will be as I mentioned, in diabetes, in hepatitis B, in cancer, in many other sectors or products that we are working on. Also, this is one that I think has been a prominent sector we are working. Also in ITC, in info telecommunications in general, we are working different Indian institutions in order to transfer some solutions as a part of the Indian stack. We are transferring some solutions to Cuba. For example, this program that you have, SASHIT, in order to prevent of natural extreme events, is important for Cuba, because we are also suffering in our country these hurricanes more frequently and stronger, but also heavy rains in our country. So to transfer this technology to Cuba will be very is essential in order to prevent the losses of human life and also material resources in our country. So this is another sector, important sector. In tourism, before COVID, almost 35,000 Indians traveled to Cuba.
Oh.
If you see today, it's no more than 20,000. Why? Because of the impact of the COVID, especially in Cuba, the Iceland, we have to recover the sector. Also, the people after COVID were more focused in the closer countries, closer destination. But as we were talking, there is a potential to double the number of Indians visiting Cuba in the forthcoming years. And we are working, we should work very hard in order to promote Cuba with all these tourist agencies and also with some airlines in order to increase the different facilities in order to for transportation to Cuba as well. So I think in this specific type in energy, we were already mentioning these new projects. You're working with ISA, including Indian companies participating in these projects, and once we can achieve the projects that we are working with the ISA, that is for 2 years, in 4 years, we should finish these 3 projects you are working on. Will be, of course, very important for Cuba, and specific for the electric national system in our country. I can say also we continue strengthening the legal framework between the 2 countries. Trying to sign MOU with different institutions in order to provide a legal, framework in order to replace all the different possibility for technology, for medication, for pharmaceutical industry, and so on.
That's interesting. I can see your tenure as tenure on the arc of 3 P's. One is past, present, and the promise. So thank you very much, Ambassador, for sharing your vision with such clarity and grace. May this dialogue deepen the bridge between India and Cuba relations, and may our shared future be as luminous as that dawn on the Mailcon. Thank you very much, Ambassador, for your time.
Thank you, Julia, and the Blue Moon for this opportunity.
Thank you, and congratulations once again on the Cuba Culture National Day, which we are celebrating together on 20th October. On our Diwali festival.
For sure. We wait all the audience to visit the Cervantes Institute, enjoy this Cuban film.
Looking forward to see you there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
As our conversations comes to a close, I am reminded of that Havana morning where resilience danced in the breeze and every corner whispered a story. Cuba is not just a place, it's a pulse, a promise, and a poetic force. If you want to learn our resilience, you want to learn our strength, or you want to come out from your weakness, Cuba is the only country where you will find how they have converted their weakness into the strength. You have been listening to Rare Talks by Jjuliaa Gangwani, presented by the Blue Moon. I'm Jjuliaa Gangwani. I'll see you next time where another rare voice meets a resonant question. Thank you. Stay safe.